Chapter 5, Mishnah 5. This Mishnah deals with produce grown in Syria, the lands of Aram, which were conquered and annexed to Israel by King David. By rabbinic law, produce grown by a Jew in Syria is subject to Trumos and Maasros, but produce grown by a non-Jew is not. The Mishnah discusses the law if a Jew buys produce in Syria while it is still growing. If a Jew buys a field of vegetables in Syria from a non-Jew, the status of the vegetables depends on who owns them at the stage of Maasros. If the Jew bought the field before the vegetables reached the stage of Maasros, the vegetables are subject to Maasros, because when they reached the stage of Maasros and the laws of Maasros took effect, the vegetables were owned by a Jew, and Jewish-owned produce in Syria is subject to Maasros. But if he bought the field after the vegetables reached the stage of Maasros, the vegetables are exempt from Maasros, because they were owned by a non-Jew when the laws of Maasros would have taken effect, and the produce of a non-Jew in Syria is not subject to Maasros. In this case, the Jewish buyer may harvest the vegetables in his usual manner. That is, he may allow the vegetables to continue to grow and harvest them at the usual time, even though they will continue to grow while owned by a Jew. He does not have to separate Maasros. However, he must harvest the vegetables himself. He may not hire workers to do the harvesting. The next Tana disagrees with this last point. Rabbi Yehuda says he may even hire workers to harvest the vegetables. The next Tana disagrees with the Tana Kama on a different point. He holds that even vegetables owned by a Jew at the stage of Maasros are sometimes exempt from Maasros. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says, when were these things said? That is, in what case are vegetables bought before the stage of Maasros subject to Maasros? When the Jew bought the land along with the vegetables. But if he did not buy the land but merely bought the vegetables, or even if he bought them before they reached the stage of Maasros, they're exempt from Maasros. According to Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, the very fact that the vegetables grew on a non-Jew's land exempts them from Maasros, even if the vegetables were owned by a Jew at the stage of Maasros. Produce in Syria is subject to Maasros only if a Jew owns both the produce and the land it is on when it reaches the stage of Maasros. The next Tana disputes yet another aspect of the Tana Kama's ruling. The Tana Kama ruled that if the vegetables were owned by a non-Jew at the stage of Maasros, even the part that grows after the sale is exempt from Maasros. Rebbe disagrees. Rebbe says even if a Jew bought vegetables after the stage of Maasros, he must separate Maasros by proportion. That is, he must separate for whatever percentage of the vegetables grew after the sale, but not for the percentage that grew before the sale. For example, if at the time of the sale the vegetables had grown a third, he does not have to separate Maasros for that third, but he must separate Maasros for the remaining 2/3.